It began on an autumn night when the storm was howling across the rocky coast, turning the sea into a churning mass of fury. Under the oppressive weight of swirling black clouds, a lone lighthouse stood on the precipice of a jagged cliff, a crumbling monument to a long-forgotten past. Local lore had always warned of its cursed legacy, that on tempestuous nights, the spirit of a vanished keeper wandered its spiral stairs, mourning lives lost at sea and luring the unwary into its dark embrace. 4 friends, Claire, Mark, Jake, and Eleanor, had come together in search of an adrenaline rush, enticed by whispered legends and midnight dares. Claire, whose fascination with the paranormal was matched only by her courage, had discovered the lore online. "They say he still tends the light," she had insisted, eyes gleaming with equal parts terror and excitement. Mark, ever the skeptic, scoffed at ghost stories, but felt a prickling unease in the back of his mind. Jake, the quiet observer of the group, seemed lost in thought as he stared out toward the roiling ocean. Eleanor, naturally cautious, lingered on the fringes, her instincts warning her of dangers unseen. The journey to the lighthouse was a test of both nerve and resolve. They parked at the edge of a windswept cliff, and with rain lashing against their faces, followed a narrow, overgrown path to the ancient structure. The lighthouse loomed ahead, a towering relic of faded white paint and weathered stone, its light now little more than a flickering ember in the gloom. A rusted door creaked open at their touch, as if inviting them inside. They stepped over the threshold into a world of shadows and echoes. The air was heavy with the scent of salt and decay, and every footstep resonated against the worn wooden floorboards. A spiral staircase wound upward, disappearing into darkness. With only the erratic beam of a handheld flashlight to guide them, they began their ascent. As they climbed, Claire felt a chill that wasn't entirely due to the cold. A whisper of wind, or was it a whisper of sorrow, brushed her neck, making her shudder. "Did you feel that?" she murmured. Mark laughed it off, attributing it to the building settling, but even his voice wavered as they reached the top. At the lantern room, the vista took their breath away. The storm had transformed the sea into a violent, frothing cauldron, and the lighthouse's broken glass cast eerie patterns of light and shadow over the turbulent waves below. Suddenly, a stray beam of light, not coming from any discernible source, darted across the room. It was followed by a low, mournful sound, a melody of grief carried on the wind, echoing like the lament of lost souls. In the far corner of the room, a figure began to form. At first, it was little more than a distortion, a wraith-like presence that sent a ripple of fear through the group. Slowly, the spectre coalesced into a gaunt man in a tattered uniform. His eyes, deep and sorrowful, seemed to pierce each of them. He stood silent, as if weighed down by an eternal burden. "I once tended this light," the ghost intoned, his voice merging with the wailing wind. "I guided souls to safety, but in the fury of a storm I lost them all." The spectral figure, Captain Elias, regarded them with a sadness that transcended time. His gaze drifted to the windows where sheets of rain blurred the boundary between sea and sky. Mark's skepticism faltered in the face of undeniable sorrow. Jake's usual reserve was replaced by awestruck silence, and even Eleanor, whose intuition had warned her of peril, felt compassion welling within her. Claire stepped forward, her voice steady despite the terror that coiled in her stomach. "Is there any way to help you find peace?" she asked softly. Captain Elias's ethereal features softened. "There is a relic, a journal that holds the key to undoing my curse," he replied. "Hidden in the depths of this very lighthouse lies the truth of that terrible night. Find it, and I may be freed from this eternal vigil." Determined to help the tortured soul, the friends agreed to search every corner of the ancient structure. The lighthouse, it seemed, was as much a labyrinth of memories as it was of stone and wood. In a forgotten corridor behind a tattered maritime tapestry, they discovered a narrow door, its hinges groaning in protest as they pushed it open. The passage beyond was cramped and shadowed, and at its end lay a small, dust-choked room. There, on a rickety wooden table, rested a leather-bound journal with pages yellowed by time. Gathering around, Mark carefully opened the journal. Its pages chronicled the life of Captain Elias, a dedicated keeper who had once been hailed as a savior to countless seafarers. The entries grew darker as the narrative unfolded. On a fateful night, a violent storm had swallowed a ship whole, its passengers claimed by the merciless sea. Desperate to redeem himself, Elias had pleaded with mysterious forces to guide him in a rescue that proved tragically futile. In return, an unholy bargain was struck. His soul was condemned to forever tend the light, a spectral guardian trapped between life and death. The revelation was chilling. Elena's voice trembled as she read aloud the captain's final desperate words, a ritual that, if reversed, might free him from his eternal torment. The journal detailed that the curse could be undone only by reenacting the fateful night's conditions and performing a counter-ritual at the heart of the lighthouse. Outside, the storm roared in response, as if the elements themselves were part of the ancient pact. The friends gathered in the lantern room once more, laying out the items specified in the journal. They retrieved a salt crystal collected from the storm-lashed shore, a fragment of the shattered lighthouse lens found among the rubble, and a small, waterlogged photograph that Captain Elias had cherished, a glimpse of a life that had once been full of hope. As they prepared the ritual, the atmosphere became almost unbearably charged with a mix of dread and anticipation. The winds howled, the sea raged, and within the lighthouse the very walls seemed to pulse with an ancient energy. They began to recite the incantation, their voices merging with the sound of the storm. The air shimmered, and the spectral captain reappeared, his translucent form flickering in the intermittent light. "Hold fast," he urged, his voice straining against the pull of the curse. "I feel the weight of this bond loosening, but the darkness fights back." The ritual grew in intensity. The friends' words echoed throughout the lantern room as the spectral light from the lighthouse fractured into wild, erratic patterns. For a moment, time seemed suspended. Each heartbeat, each breath, a testament to the struggle between mortal will and the relentless force of a cursed past. In a climactic surge of energy, Captain Elias cried out, his voice mingling with the roar of the storm. His form began to waver, caught between the tangible and the spectral. The oppressive power of the curse pressed in from all sides, manifesting as swirling shadows and a cacophony of tormented whispers. Yet, bolstered by the compassion and resolve of the friends, the ancient bonds started to unravel. Then, in one final shattering moment, the spirit's tortured expression softened. "Thank you. Free me," he whispered, the words barely audible over the fading tumult of the storm. As if a great weight had been lifted, the oppressive energy receded, the howling winds quieted, and the storm's fury began to wane. In the sudden, eerie stillness that followed, the friends looked around the lantern room. The ghostly presence of Captain Elias was gone, leaving only a lingering sense of melancholy and relief. Outside, the storm subsided into a gentle rain, and a soft, steady glow emanated from the lighthouse's lantern, a beacon not of despair, but of hope renewed. As dawn crept over the horizon, bathing the coastline in pale light, the group left the lighthouse behind. They walked away changed, carrying with them the profound realization that some spirits do not haunt out of malice, but from an unyielding desire for redemption. The lonely lighthouse remained, a solemn sentinel on the rugged cliffs, its light now a quiet tribute to a soul finally at peace. In the years that followed, local lore began to shift. Neighbors no longer whispered of a cursed keeper doomed to wander in sorrow. Instead, they spoke of a night when compassion triumphed over despair and a ghost was set free. And on nights when the sea was calm and the wind gentle, a single, steady light shone from the lighthouse, accompanied by a faint echo of gratitude, a silent reminder of that fateful night when the lonely found solace and the lost found freedom.